Sorry for missing the earlier meeting, Mayor. I had to chase down my daughter, my dog, her.
Oh, your dog, Churro. Oh no, you found her?
Yeah, it escaped out of the house, so we were chasing it. So
That's a horrible feeling. That is a horrible feeling when you lose your dog. You were missed. Marcy, I'm just gonna wait until you tell me that we're ready to go.
Mr. Mayor, the meeting is ready to go whenever you are.
Thank you, Marcy. 1, 2, 3. I'm missing Councillor Parkinson and Councillor Jansen. So we'll give them. Oh, there's Councillor Jansen. And so we'll just wait for Councillor Parkinson. I know. Give him a moment. That actually is 6:31, so I'm gonna. I'm sure he'll be logging on in a minute. So we'll get the meeting going. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Colwood Monday, March 8th regular council meeting at 6:31 p.m. We do acknowledge that all of us are meeting on the shared traditional lands of the Coast Salish people this evening. I'm going to take a roll call, please. So if everybody could please unmute and just let me know that you are present. Councillor Baxter.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Kobayashi.
ready, ready.
Thank you. Councillor Jansen.
Present, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Logan.
I'm present.
Thank you. And Councillor Parkinson.
I'm present.
All right, thank you. Sorry, you're cutting in and out for a little bit, and it didn't sound very enthusiastic when I heard you say that you were present.
I am ready and rare to go, boss.
Excellent, that's much better. Looking for, so I'm going to move on now, looking for approval of the agenda, which is the near-term, long-term, and regular council meeting agenda for March 8th. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Baxter, seconded by Councillor Logan. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion this evening, I'll call the question. Those in opposition? Nobody opposes. Thank you. 3, there was a special meeting of council in camera this evening at 5:30 p.m. However, there was no motions to release from this evening. Moving on to 4, public participation. We had 3 written submissions were received and have been added to our electronic agenda. So you should have that. 2 were related to the rezoning application on Veterans Memorial Parkway, and 1 related to the rabbit population in Royal Bay. We are now moving on to public participation. We do have 2 residents registered to speak. Members of the public will be encouraged and provided an opportunity to present concerns or ask questions of committee or council. Comments pertaining to a matter that has been the subject of a public hearing are prohibited where the bylaw related to the matter has not been presented to council for consideration yet. The following items have been subject to a public hearing: bylaw number 1840, retail cannabis, 310 Goldstream Avenue; bylaw number 1700-04, Royal Beach sub-area plan; and bylaw number 1837, CD30 zone, Royal Beach; and bylaw number 1852, land use amendment 1764 Island Highway, which was the Galaxy Motors. I have 2 people, 2 members of the public who are ready to, or who have asked to speak. The first I will call on is Dale Malik. Dale, are you online with us?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
Mr. Mayor.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Dale Malik. I live at 3480 Fulton Road. I've lived in Colwood for 49 years. I'm calling today because decisions are being made in my community for misleading information. My daughter, who is a first-year nursing student, about a month ago notified me that she signed a petition, and she is very upset that someone is going to cut down all the trees and develop Heavenwood Park. I assured her that no one is going to log or develop Heavenwood Park. I wanted to see where she got her information, so the both of us researched the websites and comments. It was clear by the comments that many people believed the park was going to be destroyed. My daughter, after reviewing the facts, tried to remove her name from the petition, but was not able to. I think it's disgusting that young, educated people are being misled by these for-profit petitions that don't represent our community. During my research, the name of Councillor Cynthia Day continued to come up as if she's leading the charge against the Wishart Gardens development. I appreciate her views on the environment, but I feel she is in complete conflict to vote on this rezoning. My view is the property is zoned for 21 single family and 30 apartments. This means that the property trees are going to be removed according to that plan. The new rezoning plan gives more green space than the previous zoning, which means saves the trees that are going to be cut down regardless. I only see 3 paths for this project. Not approve the rezoning, and all the trees come down, 21 homes are built, and 30 apartments, end of story. Number 2 is approve the rezoning, save some trees, increase the tax base so we can improve trails and green space throughout our community. Or number 3, Colwood purchases the land and adds to Heavenwood Park. I'm not sure where that money comes from for this option. My vote is for number 2, to approve the rezoning. My family uses Heavenwood Park almost daily, and we would like to be able to walk down to the proposed commercial area, and we would like to continue to see improvements in our walking and bike trail networks throughout Colwood. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Moving on, our next person who has asked to speak is Rhonda Dubois. Rhonda, I'm hoping I said your last name correctly.
Yes, I'm here.
Great, the floor is
Can you
yours.
hear me?
We can.
Yes, so I'm Rhonda Dubois. I live at 3432 Hopwood Place. So we're in the residential area directly adjacent to the rezoning property. So I'm actually speaking in response to the rezoning application for the property adjacent to Havenwood Park. So I'm actually pretty shocked as to how this proposal even was being remotely entertained by the council and the planning department at City Hall. This originally was zoned for the 21 homes and 1 30-unit apartment building, and now has a development proposal for 6 six-story apartment buildings to be built right beside Havenwood Park. You know, I can't think of a more inappropriate use for this land than to entertain this proposal. You know, Colwood Council and the Planning Department at City Hall, you have a responsibility not only to the people and the voters of Colwood, but also to maintain the integrity of our parks and green spaces. You know, allowing this proposal to go through would be in direct contravention to both of those responsibilities. People use these parks and green spaces as a respite from the pressures of our city and civilization. You know, if this proposal goes through, there will be 6 large apartment buildings towering over the park trails and hundreds of occupants staring down from their balconies. How can anyone using the park enjoy nature with that happening? Not to mention the level of noise from all of the tenants and their vehicles coming and going from the apartment buildings to Veterans Memorial. It wouldn't be any different than taking a walk down a main thoroughfare in downtown Victoria. And not only would this proposal affect users of the park, but also the health of the park itself. You put 600 to 800 renters living 10 feet from the park, and you're going to have people tramping all over the vegetation, off the trails, destroying ecosystems, and increasing garbage in the park. And that isn't even taking into consideration other issues like people drinking in the park, smoking or partying in the park. You know, this development won't just affect Havenwood. Lookout Lake Park is just a short 10-minute walk. Putting this level of density right beside Havenwood Park will negatively affect the Lookout Lake Park as well. You know, in terms of traffic, all you need to do to illustrate that point would be to take a walk down Veterans Memorial. You know, it's a very noisy, unpleasant walk with all the traffic speeding by. And this is going to put another 600 to 800 people in residence beside that park is going to aggravate that issue to an extreme. The level of parking in the proposal is inadequate, and therefore leaving the tenants with no other choice but to park along Veterans or on roads in other subdivisions bordering the park or anywhere else they can find. Havenwood Park and Lookout Lake Park are not the only areas that are going to be negatively impacted. My neighborhood will be adversely affected as well, with at least one of these buildings to be built within 10 feet of my neighbor's property line. You know, I asked the councilors how would they react if that was their home. Not only will we lose privacy as these buildings are going to tower over our subdivision, but with a shortage of parking, we'll likely have people parking all over our street. This presents a danger to the children that live here. We have over 30 children in our subdivision who spend time outside, you know, playing on one or both of our dead-end streets. People who don't live in our neighborhood often don't consider their speed when they're driving our subdivision. All these extra people on our roads are going to be a hazard to the young children that live and play here. And if you think that people are upset about this proposal now, consider how the hundreds of people that use Havenwood Park each month are going to feel when they come to the park once all the trees between the park and the development are cut down, and or when they come to the park for some peace and quiet and to appreciate nature and then have to listen to the blasting that will be going on to create the underground parking systems. You know, I understand that the council has ambitions to increase the tax base, but why should our parks be sacrificed to the altar of those ambitions when there are more appropriate areas for this type of development? You know, is this honestly the legacy that this council wants to leave the people of Colwood? You know, I thank you for your time, and I urge council to take these concerns and the concerns of other Colwood residents very seriously before allowing this proposal to go ahead. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. So just a reminder to all the public, right now, Havenwood Park is sitting as a function with staff. Excuse me, Havenwood Park is not. Havenwood Park, I guess I should back up. Havenwood Park itself is protected. Havenwood Park is a park. The lands beside it are up for a rezone application, and presently right now it sits with staff. Council has not been brought anything to this point, and when it does land on the table, council will have an opportunity to comment. I am going to move on. I will include that as my mayor's message this evening. So moving on to 6, adoption and the receipt of minutes.
Point of order, please. I'm sorry, but I was just impugned by one of the speakers, and I would just like to have a chance to correct the record publicly. I am not involved with the petition that is circulating in any way. I had nothing to do with organizing it, nothing.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 6, adoption and receipt of minutes then. I'm looking for the regular council meeting minutes of February 22nd. Looking for adoption, please. Moved by Councillor Jansen, second by Councillor Logan. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in opposition? Nobody opposes. Moving on to 6.2, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of February 1st, and this is to be received, these minutes. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Parkinson, second by Councillor Kobayashi. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Those in opposition? Nobody opposes. Thank you. Moving on to 7. This is correspondence requiring council direction. Council, you have in your package, this is a letter from Carol Brown. This is a Citizen Environment Network in Colwood in regards to checkout bag regulations. What's the will of council? Councillor Parkinson.
I'd be happy to move the recommendation that the correspondence be received and that staff be directed to return to council with a briefing on where we left off on the old bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder to that?
Second.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Day, I heard you verbally, so I'll go
Yeah,
that way.
sorry,
Thank
I
you.
thought
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Day.
Sorry, I thought my hand was up, but I don't know what's going on tonight. Gremlins.
Okay. I'm going to clear everybody's hands. So is there any discussion in regards to this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Oh, excuse me, there is. Just a minute. Councillor Kobayashi.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just a comment I'd like to make on this. I mean, I've always had fuzzy feelings about this whole bag issue, but obviously, I mean, I read that Ocean Wise report and noticed that the plastic bags are sort of down there on the priority list as far as plastic pollution. And I've always had issue with this. I never understood why we don't tackle the biggest problem, which is plastic food containers and beverage containers. That's number one. It's like 3 times more than the second place item. So, you know, I always wondered why, and maybe the scenic people can educate me on this. Why we didn't tackle the bigger issue? You know, the plastic bags are getting beaten up here, but yet it's like it's way down on that priority list. I just wondered why we never took on the bigger issue and lead the way. That's just a comment I'd like to make on this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands, so I'll call the question. Those in opposition to the motion? Nobody opposes. Thank you. We have 2 delegations this evening. The first will be Kathy Peters. She is from the BC Anti-Human Trafficking, or excuse me, she is a BC Anti-Human Trafficking educator, speaker, and advocate. And this is awareness in regards to human sex trafficking, sex exploitation, and child sex trafficking in British Columbia. I'm just looking for her. Oh, there she is. Sorry. Sorry, Kathy, couldn't find you there for a moment. Kathy, you have 5 minutes for a presentation, and then we have 5 minutes for questions.
Great.
So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. Today is International Women's Day, and it is Stop the Sexual Exploitation of Children and Youth Awareness Week. Human sex trafficking and sexual exploitation for the purpose of prostitution is the fastest growing crime in the world, and it is here. So what is human trafficking? It is the recruiting, transporting, transferring, receiving, holding, concealing, harboring, or exercising control over a person for the purpose of exploiting them. The key word is exploitation. This is modern day slavery. Here are some stats. 13 years old is the average age of recruitment into the sex industry. It is much younger for Indigenous girls. 54% are Indigenous. They are severely overrepresented in the sex industry. It's up to 80% in the downtown east side. 82%, this is shocking, involved in prostitution had childhood sexual abuse or incest, which is preparation for prostitution later on. 72% live with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, so trauma has to be addressed. 95% in prostitution want to leave. It is not a choice, it is not a job. 86% have housing needs, so homelessness makes them vulnerable, and 82% need drug rehabilitation because drugs and the sex industry go together. So I've been raising awareness about sexual exploitation and specifically child sexual exploitation and trafficking to every city council, MLA, MP, and police agency in BC since the Protection of Communities and Exploited Persons Act became federal law in 2014 so that the police would enforce it, so the public would understand it and be able to report it. So there's 3 parts to this law. Number 1, it targets the demand by targeting the buyer of sex. The predator, trafficker, pimp, facilitator, John, or buyer of sex are criminalized. Number 2, it recognizes the seller of sex as a victim, usually female, and is not criminalized. And number 3, there's exit strategies in place to assist the victim out of the sex trade. BC's not doing a very good job on any of these. This law focuses on the source of the harm, the buyers of sex and the profiteers. The clear statement from Parliament was that girls and women in Canada are not for sale. Here's the RCMP pamphlet. They are full human beings with dignity and human rights. Vancouver and Toronto are global sex tourism hotspots. Canada, and this is new, is known as a child sex tourism destination. The sex industry is growing fast. It's targeting our children. Children is where the money is, fueled by the internet where most of the luring is taking place. Contributing factors are globalization, unregulated technology, no surprise, limited law enforcement, and very little prevention education, which is what I do. Canada has a new National Human Trafficking Hotline number, and here it is. I sent you the wallet card for this, and provincially we have OC-TIP, which has a helpline number as well. Pornography is fueling the sex industry and creating the market for commercially paid sex. Men and boys are the buyers of sex and are the key to end exploitation. Now here's the line the Vancouver Police Department gave me. Boys and men must understand that there's a sacred part of the woman they have no right to. And I presented that, I shared that with the BC Indigenous Chiefs 2 weeks ago, along with Federal Justice Minister David Lametti. So what can you do in beautiful Colwood, by the way? Train your business licensing managers what to look for when granting business licenses. So unregistered massage and body rub parlors, nail spas, holistic health centers, day spas, modeling agencies, tattoo parlors, escort services, cheap bars and hotels, men's clubs, Airbnb, VRBO, casinos, strip clubs, organized crime clubhouses can all be typical covers for sex trafficking and exploitation. Now, regarding hotels and motels, Ontario is best practices. In an effort to curb trafficking, they are mandating the registration of every guest who is in a room and paying for the room. So BC is getting further and further behind all provinces in Canada in both enforcing the federal law and raising awareness with prevention education. Therefore, BC is the best place in Canada to buy and sell women and children for sex. Public awareness in BC is completely lacking. The media has a pro-sex industry narrative, making it very difficult to counter. That's why I have sent information packages to every city council in BC to warn you all of this rapidly growing crime. So I have three asks actually. Could I present to your law enforcement and to any community safety committee? Number two, could you alert the Premier and Solicitor General that this crime is a priority in BC, needs funding for provincial law enforcement and a provincial awareness campaign? BC needs an interagency human sex trafficking task force similar to what is available for drugs and gangs. It's what Ontario and Manitoba have. And lastly, could you write me a letter of support? Thank you so much.
Mr. Unmute, Mayor.
Thank you. I was just saying thank you for getting us in the 5 minutes. That was great. Thank you, Kathy. We have an opportunity for questions. So I will go to council. Council, does anyone have any questions? If not, Kathy, thank you so much for the presentation. Oh, excuse me. I do. Councillor Day.
Thanks, Kathy. Great to see you again. I'm just curious. There's a big connection between human trafficking and gangs, and especially the amount of money that they make. Can you tell me what the latest is on that?
Well, I work very closely with Vancouver Police Department. They've got the best sex crimes unit in the whole province. They're fantastic. So I'm meeting with them again tomorrow. I always quote and say, I mean, gangs are really into this because it's a low risk, high income crime, and they make about $280,000 per victim. And it's probably more like $360,000 per victim. And again, they're really going after the underage. I said 13. In Surrey, they're going after 10 and 11-year-olds in Surrey. And again, you know, Victoria is a port city. It's the capital provincially, so you're vulnerable to this as well. Gangs are very much into sex trafficking. It's where they make their money.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation tonight, Kathy. It was appreciated. I'm not seeing any other hands, so we're going to move on to our second presenter. Our second presenter this evening is Sandra Bryce. She's the Executive Director from the Victoria Child Abuse Prevention and Counseling Center. Sandra, are you there? There you are. Sandra, you have 5 minutes, and then we have 5 minutes for questions as well. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I really believe in community government. It really makes a difference. And so I'm the Executive Director of the Victoria Child Abuse Prevention and Counseling Center, used to be known as the Mary Manning Center. And we have been providing services because our catchment area goes out to all of West Shore, and we serve, our victim services come out to Colwood Court. And so since West Shore Souk is growing so fast, I've been looking for funding to open up a child and youth advocacy center. We have opened up one about 3 years ago in Victoria, but it's very time consuming for RCMP and child protection workers from the West Shore to come and interview children. So an advocacy center is based on the idea that children are different. They need to have a different environment to tell the story when they've been victimized. And so we make this beautiful, child-friendly, beautiful space that trained police officers come in and can interview children when they've been hurt. Predominantly, most often it's sexual abuse or the witnessing of violence in the home. And it's very difficult for children at the best of times. So over the years, I've been really advocating that we have this service in the West Shore. And recently I've gotten funding. So I'm bringing a good news story to Colwood that we will be opening up a child and youth advocacy center. And we're working with the local RCMP, child protection workers, and with Pacific Center, because we do believe in the wraparound service that children need and youth after they've been victimized. So there isn't an ask, there's a celebration to let you know that this service is coming. We're looking for space right now. We think we need about 400 square feet. We have enough money to fund this and to provide the RCMP with state-of-the-art technology with cameras and videotapes so that the children can tell their story in a safe environment and make it convenient, because to drive all the way into Victoria, it just doesn't happen. And I don't know if any of you have been into the interview room at the West Shore Police, but it's more like an interrogation room, which it is. I think it's multi-purpose. But this is a really, really wonderful opportunity for West Shore, and we're looking to put it really close to the Colwood Court and make it really convenient for all of the players, the families, the people who work in there. And I know the child protection workers will really happy to use this as well, because they end up interviewing children in ours, the downtown one in Victoria. This is going to be a satellite office. It's going to be the first one in the province. There are 7 child and youth advocacy centers in the province, but this will be the first one that will be a satellite office. And I would imagine in not too long a time that this will be a standalone program out here as well. So if you have, I did send some information and a video as well, a little cartoon that explains what a child advocacy center is. And it has been, I'm going to be retiring in a few months, and it's just wonderful to actually be able, you know, my strategic plan had to develop an advocacy center in West Shore. I live in West Shore, so I get to tick that off the strategic plan and on my exit interviews. So thank you so much, and I'll keep you informed as we go along. And do any of you have any questions?
Thank you, Sandy. I will look to council. Does anybody have? Councillor Jansen, then Day. Councillor Jansen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You did mention briefly that you are involved with Pacific Center, and I mean, I do know that they had space that was unused. Is there any potential for collaboration there?
We're certainly looking at it to see if we can afford it. And we know that we have to renovate too, because we have to put in specialized soundproofing interview rooms. We make a soft room for the family to sit in, and we have a culturally appropriate place for, we have a lot of Indigenous families that use it, and we need to make sure that they have a special place for the grandmas to come. And so we're working on all those things. And we also want to provide that wraparound service. So at our agency in Victoria, we have the sexual abuse intervention program, as does Pacific Center. So we collaborate quite a bit with them around their counseling.
And what's your time frame to be up and running here, or what's our window of opportunity on our?
Well, I'm a giddy up person. I just want to get going and get it done. So I have a team, and we'll be meeting with the RCMP, with Child Protection next week. And I think one of my staff is going to do a presentation for Langford and Souk. So I'm hoping that before summer that we've got it well underway.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Councillor Day?
Thank you. I think that's wonderful. And I remember you from Family Court and the work that you did in the Brentwood area with their Turtle Talk program. So
that's right.
I just think that's so important to make a safe and welcoming place to talk about hard subjects. So thank you so much for what you do. I'm so sad that you're going to be retiring, but I'm glad that that you are going to be able to tick off this box. And if there's anything that we can do to help with connections or support, I'd be happy to help.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I remember you as well. So we'll be bringing Turtle Talk out here as well. It's just pretty awesome. So thank you so much. This is a good news story on a sad topic. And it was interesting that we had the other person talking about trafficking, because we are starting to see that. So we do need a place so we can do our investigations and bring these people to court and have justice done.
Thank you so much, Sandy. It's very, very valuable for council to understand the work that you're doing and that your organization is doing. So and on behalf of the community, thank you. Thank
you so much. We'll stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So we're going to move on now to new business. This is a summary report, 9.1, Colwood Active Transportation Network Plan Projects Foundation. This is a recommendation from the March 1st Committee of the Whole. Before I look for a mover to move the recommendation, what I'm looking for is there needs to be one amendment to this motion. And council, we already had this discussion, but I will just put it there. So after the first paragraph, which says recommendation that the report titled Summary Report, Colwood Active Transportation Network, AT&T Project Foundations be received, and that subject to budget approval, then everything else continues. So the rest of the motion stays the same. We just needed to put in that it's subject to budget approval because this motion is before budget has been approved. So I'm going to look for that mover, and that Councillor Jansen has made that motion. May I have a seconder? Councillor Logan, and I will then go to discussion. Is there discussion on this motion? I have Councillor Baxter, then Day, then Kobayashi. Councillor Baxter.
I just wanted to ask staff if the change from their originally planned motion out of this item has created any difficulties in scheduling or workload.
Mr. Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. Fundamentally, should this motion pass tonight, administration will cast our eyes back on the budget and take a look at the projects that that are in the existing draft budget, and we would likely need to make some amendments to either increase our capacity to do those planned projects together with these, and or defer some of the existing projects, and or a combination of those two things. And so should this administration will need to re-look at the next few years and see how these projects will feather into the draft plans that are already before council in the draft budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on then, Councillor Day.
Thank you. I wanted to ask staff, when I was thinking about this item at Committee of the Whole, I understood that we were putting the projects in a priority order, not that we were saying put them on the job list, because that's kind of about the subject to budget approval. My understanding was that here's our priority. We're going to do Painter and Metchosin first, which are really the only ones that are ready to go at this time anyways. And then we had prioritized the rest of the projects for development and budget approval. I didn't understand that the motion was not subject to another level of approvals with budget, and how does it fit in? So could you could staff please fill me in? Is this motion an action motion, meaning here's the list, get it done? Or is this a priority for developing a plan to do them, and then we'll vote on each plan when it's ready to go, with the exception of Painter and Metchosin?
So I will come to Mr. Earl in a moment. Councillor Day, I would refer you to the last paragraph in the motion. And that last paragraph talks about that there's a reanalysis done in 2023 to reprioritize. But I will let staff comment that we have not resourced 2022, and so that this was part of that resourcing opportunity. Mr. Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair to Councillor Day. This motion would effectively do both. It creates a priority list, much as was recommended in the initial report to committee, but this motion goes further. And it is an action motion, as you described. And so this will set the stage for administration to begin the process of pre-design scoping, followed by design, and then fundamentally, this suggests a construction schedule for both the 2022 and the 2023 calendar years. The funding for those 2 years in particular, outside of the Painter and Metchosin projects, is not yet in place. And so ultimately, the qualifying language that Mayor Martin added to this motion earlier this evening will allow administration the time to work with council to put into place the necessary budgets and organizational capacity to attempt to achieve those dates.
Councillor Day.
Thank you. So unfortunately, then I would have to vote against this motion as it's written. It's not because I don't think sidewalks are important or that I don't want to build them. It's just that we don't have figured out how we're going to build it. We don't have figured out how we're going to pay for it. And I don't think the motion should be setting that action as an expectation before we have that information. I think we need to have the information before we make it an action plan, which is why, every year when we talk about things that largely impact our budget, we try to consider all things, all asks, all things that are budget related at the same time, so that nobody gets the advantage of going first. And this motion does the opposite of that and actually carves in stone that here's what we're planning to do, and it comes before any other financial question that we may have in the next couple of years. And that, I think, is the wrong approach.
Okay. Councillor Day, I don't think that that's what this motion does. this motion is clear that it needs to be approved under budget. And so if this council chose not to approve it under budget, then this project would not move forward. It's a bit of a chicken and egg issue, because if we don't give direction to staff to bring things to budget, then nothing lands in budget for us to discuss. But I do understand your point. Councillor Kobayashi.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I tend to have to agree with you, Councillor Day, on this issue, to tell you the truth, because I'm having all kinds of difficulties here, really. And apropos to this discussion was we were talking about the TMP, and we were talking about Metchosin Road and how many cars are going to go down Metchosin Road, because this was going to determine sidewalks and things like this. That was all part of the equation. And I guess I'm going to ask a question to staff, because I am totally getting confused now. I could tell you this right now. I am so confused by this, because the presentation that was brought forth to us, and I hate to go back to this and flog a dead horse, but you know, it comes back to the discussions that we had on the vehicle traffic, and we were told to rest assured that we have toads that count the number of vehicles and all this stuff. And I guess my first question I want to ask, and just get a confirmation from Mr. Molnar on this, is the response, that the presentation done by Urban Systems. Could you please tell me if that was the response, and all these discussions that came after, was that in response to our earlier request? I think it was Councillor Day, seconded by Councillor Parkinson, on November 23rd. We specifically had asked that staff come back with a plan which showed a road design that maximized traffic flow on Metchosin Road. Could you just answer that first question, please, Brent?
Absolutely. Through the chair to Councillor Kobayashi. As part of the strategic planning exercise, we identified that we would be working our way through 12 transportation master plan cross sections. So the exercise for Metchosin Road was the first foray into those 12. We have coming up next the other 2 north-south routes. So we'll have Metchosin Road done firstly, which we've done, and that helped backstop that Metchosin Road sidewalk project. So it was good confirmation. Next up will be Veterans Memorial Parkway and Wishart Road, maybe in flip order. And that's what we're aiming for now. So those will tackle all the 3 north-south routes, and those were meeting the strategic plan as identified at the end of 2020, I believe.
Okay, so it's sort of a partial answer to that question. If this was in fact the presentation that answered our request, it's partial. It just addresses Metchosin Road. But I guess, Brent, this is what my request is to staff, and I would like to make that motion, a motion, if this is the time or later on, Mayor Martin. But my issue still is, in my best judgment, I look at this right now, and I know this 2000. I'm really stuck on this 2,000 car increase over the next 25 years. I'm so stuck on this, and I just don't believe it. I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense at all. If you think about it right now, we have a population of 18,000 people. That's all over Colwood. And so you're going to be increasing the population by another, say, 12 to 15,000 people in the Royal Bay, Royal Beach area alone. Okay, so if you look at that and you use the numbers that have been published by the CRD, which is the average door is 1.912 cars. So you double that, say, you're looking at 30,000 cars. So you're telling me that only 2,000 cars are going to be going down Metchosin Road. I'm sorry, it's not clicking. Like, show me where that number came from. Can someone show me that? Because Brent, the more I got into this and I started reading back on the old plans, it almost seems like that 2,000 cars, and this makes more sense, came from when they first estimated the density of being 2,900 doors in Royal Beach and Royal Bay. That's what I see. I mean, it's in black and white right now. So, and that number's never adjusted, but yet they tell us Watt and Bunt say it's yeah, they did back in 2008. So something isn't making sense. And I don't want us to make a big mistake here. This is a big mistake. And, you know, I'm terrified of this. And so I'm saying, okay, so I guess my question is, or my motion is, show me. I mean, can you show us where that 2,000 number actually came from? Don't say Bunt and Watt, because I did go back, as you know, I actually checked it myself, and something happened. I mean, that number came from back in 2008 from what I see, and it's never changed, and yet the density has changed. So that's
So Councillor Kobayashi, no, Councillor Kobayashi, can you clarify something for all the council then? So right now we're talking about the active transportation and that there was in regards to sidewalks and bike lanes. Do you believe that those numbers would change your decision on the priority list?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. That's, if I don't see the real picture and I'm only seeing bits of it which are which may be inaccurate, then how can we be making the right decisions?
Mr. Earl.
That's my point.
Mr. Earl,
thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Kobayashi. Administration has used Urban Systems recently as a consultant on 2 different projects. And the most recent project where there was a presentation to council was the sidewalk and bike lane project. And I believe, Councillor Kobayashi, you were asking kind of how did this item get onto committee and then ultimately council's table? As part of the strategic plan that was adopted in 2019, council asked the administration to prepare for both sidewalk and bike lane 10-year master plans. So a list of projects that represented a 10-year capital plan for each of those. And so that's where the most recent presentation from Urban Systems to council came from. And that's why this ultimately was recommended from committee and is on the table tonight. Urban Systems also made recently a presentation to committee and then council with respect to the Machosen Road cross section. And within that, you are absolutely correct. There was a presumption about the future vehicle counts, and administration would be pleased to forward information to council with respect to kind of what is the root of where those numbers were from. And we'd be happy to do that after this meeting.
Thank you very much.
I will go to Councillor Parkinson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and just basically agreeing with everybody else. Yes, this is definitely an action motion. I think we had the presentation from Urban Systems with a 10-year plan. We've heard of some issues. You know, we haven't checked cross sections on Veterans and Memorial. There's some obviously some challenges there. We know there's challenges on Latoria. I think the projects selected were done as a way of practical things that wouldn't be impacted by these bigger picture issues that are still getting resolved, but could keep things moving quickly, which certainly is my intention. As far as the budget goes, my understanding of the budget is that we do have $300,000 in the cycling and sidewalk line item, which we haven't discussed in detail, I understand, for both this year and next, which should get a start on the design works. The construction works may require a modification, will require a modification. There's 1.2 million in future years for sidewalk infrastructure. I think we should put a priority on really getting some of this stuff done within the city. I don't think any of us would dispute the fact that more sidewalks would improve our city. Here we have a good list that's it's been prioritized. You can prioritize it a whole bunch of ways, but I think that what's in front of us tonight is a practical first start. And quite frankly, if more work on these projects during the pre-design process comes up with some incredible stumbling blocks, that means we have to shelve and rethink on one or more projects, we certainly have that option further on. Yes, and I recognize we have to tweak the budget to make it happen, but to me, this is, I think, important part of our work. As the strategic plan says, and I think it probably we all said during the election campaign, to help create a better city for Colwood. So very supportive of this motion.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands. I'll give a moment if there's anyone else looking to speak. It doesn't look like it. So I will, oh no, Councillor Day.
Thank you. I would like to ask to refer this back to staff, and I'm not looking to refer it back for forever or cause great delays, but my reason is simply that I want to build the sidewalks right, because once you lay down concrete on both sides of the road, you can't change them very easily. And we don't have enough money to be doing things twice. So I think it's really important that we get it right. If this was just a planning motion, we would have more time, but because it has the clause that is putting this in stone in our budgets, which of course can always be changed, but generally we're not going to find that out without looking awfully hard for it, or else you're not going to find out until after the concrete has been poured. The transportation master plan is almost, our transportation master plan is almost here. It won't be long before that's here. So perhaps when this came back, staff could recommend whether it makes any sense to wait or doesn't make any sense to wait.
Okay, thank you. I have a referral. Do I have a seconder to that referral? Councillor Jansen, are you looking to second that motion? Then I will remove your hand. May I have a seconder, please? Second by Councillor Kobayashi. There's no discussion on our referral, so I will call the question. Those in opposition? Those opposed are Councillor Jansen, Councillor Logan, Councillor Baxter, Councillor Parkinson, Mayor Martin. The motion fails. Brings us back to the main motion. Councillor Jansen, I have a motion already. It's already been moved and seconded. So are you just looking to call the question, Councillor Jansen, or do you wish to speak?
I would like to speak, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just, although I find myself in agreement with some of the stuff that Councillor Kobayashi brings up, I just think the risk to a sidewalk on Ben Homer Drive, the risk is somewhat minimal to the overall plan for the entire area, or Owen Road or Hagel Road. Like I think the risk that we're taking here with this particular list before us today is minimal. We're not talking about sidewalks on Latoria Road. We're not talking about sidewalks on somewhere in amongst Royal Bay. These are satellite streets, well-established streets that are in dire need of some improvements. So I think there's still ample opportunity for the big picture to be addressed. And again, I would like to hear some, I too would like to hear some answers as far as some of Councillor Kobayashi's inquiries. However, I think that our risk for this particular list that we're considering now is minimal. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kobayashi.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I will agree with you, Councillor Jensen, on part of it, but part of the motion too is you're still going to follow through with pre-design and scoping of, Metchosin Road, Sangster School sidewalk, Metchosin Road South bike lanes, Metchosin Road North bike lanes. So that's the part where I'm having difficulties, because I don't think the basic question has been answered. To be able to do that part of it right now, I think it may be an exercise. It may be an exercise in futility. So that's the part of the motion I don't like, to tell you the truth.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands, so I'm going to look at calling the question. I'm going to just clear everybody's hands. So we do have a motion on the table. So I will look for those in opposition. Please raise your hands. I'm just giving it a minute to give anybody else an opportunity. Councillor Kobayashi, Councillor Day opposed. The motion passes. Moving on to 9.2, this is Councillor Jansen regarding 2021 spring cleanup. Councillor Jansen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Something near and dear to my heart, and I have heard from a couple of constituents that they understand why last year's was missed, but I do believe that we've all evolved in this past year as far as our response to the COVID situation. And I think that we've developed a sophisticated enough response that obviously we don't have issues with branch collection. I would like to see that stepped up and that we offer 2 different days. I know it says April here. I'm not fussed if there's one in April and one in May, or I'm glad to leave that with staff. But I do believe that we can probably safely execute this plan with little difficulty. And I do believe there's a need for it in our community because people are probably sitting on a pile left from last year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So what I'm going to make a suggestion, Councillor Jansen, is that you move the recommendation that the 2021 spring cleanup be scheduled for 1 or more Saturdays throughout the spring of 2021. That way that leaves that a little flexible. And then I will look to staff just before I look for the motion. Again, from a resource standpoint, do I need to put a line in there that's subject to budget approval? Mr. Earl?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. As Council is aware, the draft budget currently contains the necessary resources to actuate this motion. Should that draft budget pass, no further amendment will be required.
Okay, thank you. So the motion, the way it is, the way I read it, could stand. Gives enough direction to staff.
That's correct.
Sounds excellent. Thank you. Councillor Jansen, I'm going to just assume that you made that motion.
Sounds good, Your Worship. With the only change being, we can open it up to the spring of 2021, not locking us into the month of April. Okay. I think that was the only suggestion. I think, is that right?
Yes, correct. Councillor Day, are you seconding that or looking to discuss?
I'm looking to discuss.
Okay, I need a seconder first. I will come back to you. Councillor Parkinson has seconded it. Then I will go to Councillor Parkinson, then Day. Councillor Parkinson, do you wish to comment at all as a seconder?
No, I'm in support.
Great, thanks. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I'm going to suggest that, as with all money things, I would like to think that this is subject to budget approval. Would that be correct?
Yes. Yeah. Mr. Earl just said that.
Okay. So, and I'm just going to say, I guess I don't mind if it comes to the budget, but I think we are obviously looking to tighten our belts a little bit. And from my perspective, I have found that the spring cleanup is less effective than I would have hoped. In order to do full cost recovery, you're paying just as much as you would pay if you took your items to Heartland Landfill. And I think that, from a greenhouse gas perspective, I would like to think that we could do it locally, but the costs are big and the benefits, I think, are relatively small. I also don't like couches on the side of the road or garbage strewn by the side of a road. But I really think that the people who are going to do the right thing are going to do the right thing regardless. And I think that we need to be mindful of the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Logan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been struggling with this one, and to be honest, it is a bit of a lost leader for the municipality, and I'm not sure how much it was really missed, frankly, and what it caused me to do is change some of my behavior and deal with the junk as it came along, but also there are other facilities that have popped up in the last couple of years, like free metal recycling and the like, where I can get rid of stuff and people can get rid of stuff in a pretty expedient manner. I will agree with Councillor Day in that, we probably need to be look at the bottom line a little bit. And here's a good way where we could save a few bucks. Whereas I do agree that we should increase the branch drop off because I think it's open to more people, and it's better used and it's better cherished in the community than the spring cleanup has been, and I think it's probably past its prime. So unfortunately, I can't support my friend's motion this time around. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jansen. I've had staff just comment in regards to your motion. It says to be scheduled for one or more. Staff would like clear direction on how many you would like. Do you want one? Do you want two? Do you want three? And actually have it in the motion and not be vague. Is there a way to amend your motion to that?
Yes, there is. And so I hear what some of my council peers have to say. Why don't we knock it back and just say one?
Okay.
And maybe we'll
and
split
I will. Thank you. And I believe it was Councillor Baxter who seconded that. Councillor Baxter, you're comfortable? No, sorry, excuse me. It was Councillor Parkinson. Councillor Parkinson, you're fine with it being amended just to one?
I am.
Great. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands, so I'm going to call the question. Those in opposition, please raise your hands. Councillor Day and Councillor Logan oppose. So that motion moves forward. Moving on to 9.3, this is Councillor Jansen in regards to improvements to Lookout Lake Park. Councillor Jansen.
I apologize for dominating council time. Lookout Lake Park. We discussed improvements to that park the very moment we started discussing the remediation to the earthen dam that's at that location. I think there was lots of comments made by council along the way that there was easy improvements that could be done, and I think now's the time. So I have discussed this with Mr. Earl and I have discussed it with Mr. Molnar. And I believe there are some things that we can accomplish in this season, as long as everybody agrees. Simple things. I know I've noted or I added sand to the swimming area, and I would love to hear from Brent in a moment on what may impact that, but also things like additional seating, benches, picnic table. Another picnic table. There's only one up there for children to eat at, and near and dear to my heart, possibly a new fresh garbage receptacle. Now I understand that the change facility might be a little bit bigger of an ask, but I am interested to hear from staff on what it is that they feel we might be able to accomplish this year for a modest amount of investment and staff time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to go to Mr. Earl first, and then I'll go to Mr. Molnar.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through to Councillor Jansen, as Council is aware, in the draft recreation master plan that is out for its final consultation with the community, there is a specific section on Lookout Lake Park, and within that specific section, there's some recommended actions. And the first recommended action would be the completion of a very specific parks master plan, a park management plan for Lookout Lake Park. Administration would strongly advise that should council be desirous to increase the amenities, that be the first step. And I will defer further commentary to Mr. Molnar.
Mr. Molnar?
Thank you very much. Through the chair, to the question to Councillor Jensen. There are aspects of the dam that we can work on and we can't based on the dam safety rules. And that's dam in the sense of this as opposed to the safety rules as otherwise imposed. Yeah, just so that's received properly. And what we would do is report back to council. And I spoke about it really simply in a sort of bubble diagram where we can show where works can occur and where they can't occur, and maybe make offers and suggestions, as Mr. Earl has pointed out, in a further meeting of council, so that we can work towards a long-term plan that also meets our Parks Master Plan objectives. Hope that answers your question, Councillor Jensen. Essentially is to start out with the bubble diagram as to where things could be placed, as we know that there are limits from our dam safety officer.
Councillor Jansen, and then I'll go to Councillor Day.
So I'm not exactly sure where we're at specifically at this moment with regard to this motion. Am I hearing that they would like some time to chew on it and prepare a written plan? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Mr. Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Jansen. Absolutely. The recommended actions in the draft master plan include, but aren't limited to, access, parking, delineating specific zones for different types of uses, a natural play area, picnic area, covered structures, washrooms, signage, further protection of environmentally sensitive areas, and further specific conversations with the neighborhood and the community at large. Administration kind of strongly supports a careful approach to amenity improvement in this area. And if council is desirous, should this motion pass tonight, we will return with an action plan on how we might move that forward in 2021 and what the recommended budgets would be required.
Oh, there you go. Councillor Jansen.
So, okay, I'm hearing Robert and Brent. So if you would indulge me, Your Worship, I'm happy to withdraw my original motion. I would like to put forth a new motion.
Yeah, I never got a seconder, so we didn't have a motion in front of us. So. Okay,
well then let's start with a motion that is I believe it was a park area plan or parks management plan specific to Lookout Lake Park be drafted once the Parks Master Plan draft is adopted for improvements to Lookout Lake Park as soon as possible.
Thank you. So, Mr. Earl, does that motion give you what you need? Is that the motion? Or Mr. Earl, go ahead.
Absolutely. In the draft master plan and in the current draft budget, there are specific park management plans recommended. Right now, Lookout Lake Park was not one of them. This motion, should it pass tonight, will either add to that list to make Lookout Lake Park one of the plans that we need to accelerate in 2021, and or at budget, council can determine to remove one of the other parks in its place.
Thank you. Okay, so I do have a motion now on the table. I do not have a seconder. I'm just gonna, give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna write down people's names so they don't lose their order. I'm gonna clear everybody's hands. Is there a seconder to that motion? That is seconded by Councillor Parkinson. Thank you. So Councillor Parkinson, you get to jump up to the top of the list if you wish to comment, since you're the seconder.
Oh, all right. I support Councillor Jansen's approach here. The park management plan, I think, is something that I'm learning more of, and perhaps the rest of the R2 is that everything we do in the city is complicated and needs to be juggled against other priorities and other wishes and what have you. Yes, it obviously makes sense to plan everything out and go forward in an organized manner. So I guess the parks management plan is the way to go. Tempting, though, having done so much work in that park on the dam all ready to sort of just do a little bit more and put it on the done pile, even if it's not perfect. So perhaps the Parks Management Plan will come with some short-term things that are easy to do, that don't take as long as the others. Anyway, I'll support the motion.
Thank you. So as a reminder, Council, the motion has changed, and people did put their hands up before Councillor Jansen made a motion. So I would ask that you speak to your motions, or to the motion that's on the table. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I'm very much appreciating the change in the motion because Lookout Lake has been some of the best and some of my worst times on council. And not because they aren't a wonderful neighborhood and wonderful people up there, but because much like other people who are newer on council than myself, you start out with all this energy and enthusiasm and you wonder how it could possibly be such a big problem. And I very quickly learned that even doing the nicest of things can be a big problem. But I have been in communication with a number of people who live in and around Lookout Lake, who have had a relationship with me in the past from past initiatives that we undertook up there, some of which that we got right, some of which that we did not. And I've had both the accolades and the thumbs down. So I think it's really important, just because we think it's the right thing doesn't mean that everyone will agree with us. And it's really important when it comes to amenities like our parks that we have a very open and inclusive process, so that all of those voices can come together and help us to craft the best possible plan going forward. One of the comments that I heard about adding sand to the area was, yeah, that would be a great idea as long as you're putting the sand in the water so that kids don't have to hurt their feet on those bigger rocks that they put in. I don't know if that's possible or how that might affect the fish that are there. So I'm really looking forward to getting that information back. There have also been numerous concerns about noise, about the problems that additional seating or picnic tables may bring because that park is closed from dusk till dawn. So a lot of balancing has to happen, and I think it's really important that we do it with the community's full input and support. Thank you.
Councillor Kobayashi.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And I really want to applaud Councillor Jansen on his initiative. I mean, it sounded like a great initiative when he launched this. But I'll tell you, I'm going to vote against this motion. And I'll give you the reasons why. I'm going to be very succinct here. Number one, I always found it to be a fantastic little lake up there. You know, it's a beautiful, it's got lots of birds and fish in there, and there is an ecosystem, a natural ecosystem up there. And I think by making it a big beach, it's going to become like Lower Thetis Lake. The Lower Thetis Lake has a lot of algae bloom problems, whereas Upper Thetis Lake doesn't, and the biggest difference being people in the waters. So number one is the natural ecosystem. The second thing is it all has to do with, again, with public consultation on this. I think the hearing from that particular neighborhood would be very important. I have received 5 emails from neighbors in that area against the proposal. But it's just, you know, from their point of view, noise pollution point of view, and I'll agree with that. I mean, it is a peaceful, quiet little area up there. And, you know, like a field of dreams, right? You know, if you build it, they will come. And that's exactly what's going to happen up there, you know, and I've always considered that to be our Matheson Lake, you know, like out in Machosen, and, you know, where there's nothing around it basically, and it's our Matheson Lake. The third reason I want to bring this, I'd like to bring it to everyone's attention right now, and I don't know if everyone knows this, but 2 years ago, I believe it was 2 years ago, I read it in the paper that water testing, freshwater testing is now the responsibility and the cost of the municipality and no longer the CRDs. So that's another cost that we certainly, have to look at and budget for right now. And there's liabilities that go with it too. The next reason is basically cost, and I'm not only talking about we have a budget problem this year, and yet we're adding something that in the plan wasn't even going to be addressed, but now we're introducing new costs, and maybe the new costs are not that substantial. A few picnic benches and benches and change rooms and sand. But it all adds up, because, they always say that the upfront capital costs only represent in a life cycle of anything new, only represents 20 to 30% of the true costs. You have your operating, your maintenance, and your replacement costs. And so, like I said, so there's also, you're not going to, once you start putting those type of amenities up there, even though it is closed from dawn to dusk, or open from dawn to dusk, it's if you have those amenities, people are going to naturally use it, right? So it's the way it is. So that's why I'm not supportive of it. I'd love to be supportive of it, but I just, with every other priority that we have right now, I just can't. We can't have everything as a priority right now. So that's the reason I'm not going to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Logan.
Thank you, Worship. I'm feeling a bit frustrated here, to be honest with you, and I understand where my colleagues are coming from, but we're not talking about radically altering the use of the park. We're simply wanting to enhance small bits of the park to make it a bit easier for people to get into the water. And it's relatively low cost. So what I'm seeing here are obstacles to very quick wins and very cheap wins. And frankly, I mean, the sand issue, the sand could have been added and should have been added after the dam was constructed. We had this conversation during the debate whether to proceed or not, and when we gave the ultimate approval. That's something that we would like to see. So I'm frustrated because I think we're just getting bogged down on the little details. We're not talking about anything huge. And, frankly, if cost is an issue, if Public Works wants to go and dump a couple of loads of sand, I'll be up there with my rake and I will rake it in myself. Because it's the right thing to do. It's a park. We want people to use it, for Christ's sakes. I took my kids up there. It has to be comfortable. And, we're not talking about creating a party area. We're talking about creating a space that's enjoyable for families. And holy crap, if we have to wait to do a parks master plan to throw in some sand, I mean, my God, I'm sorry. Sometimes I find us to be so bureaucratically constipated that we can't get any crap done. And this is a simple win to put sand on a beach and maybe a bench. Like, how hard can that be? So, I'm sorry. I'm just frustrated that we argue about this stuff. And it just drives me nuts because I think it's so easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Logan. Hopefully someday we can get you out of your shell and you can tell us what you really think. I'm kidding, Councillor Logan. I respect everything you said. That wasn't meant to be disrespectful. Councillor Baxter.
Well, I'm very persuaded by both Councillor Kobayashi and Councillor Logan. And so in order to help me make a decision, I wonder if we could have the motion read again.
Certainly. I will go to Ms. Wickens? Is it Lalonde? I'm not sure. Marcy?
It's okay. I answer by both.
Okay. Thank you. Did you write down the motion for us?
Oh, yes. Sorry. It's that staff be directed to prepare a management plan for Lookout Lake Park once the park master plan is adopted for potential improvements.
Councillor Baxter?
Thank you. That helps me. Thank you.
Okay, I see Mr. Borhill and Mr. Molnar have their hands up. I don't really, I'm not looking for long comments, staff, so if you can make them brief, please. Mr. Borhill first.
Thank you, Your Worship. It may be helpful for council's deliberations to know that within the 2021 budget deliberations, the 3 parks that have been prioritized for specific parks management plans include Colwood Creek Park, Victoria Creek Park, and Ocean View Park. Estimates to have consultants help staff with those plans indicate that it would cost between $15,000 and $20,000 for each of those. As such, we've proposed $50,000 in the 2021 budget for those 3 parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Molnar?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment about the sand. Sand keeps coming up. And as Mr. Earl and Ian has pointed out, we'll come back with some options for you, especially to address some of Councillor Logan's concerns. Sand, though, I want to deal with sand. We will speak specifically to it. The gravels that are being placed are specific gravels for the fish habitat that were approved by the Ministry of Environment with the project. We are monitoring the water for leachate from the rock that was used in it. And so it's a blend that all has to come together, but we will add a specific item for sand so council can be aware of the ministry's comments on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands up. So I will call the question. I'm looking to all the council. Everybody's comfortable with the motion. It has been read out. Is anybody, please put your hand up if you want the motion read one more time. I'm not seeing that, so I'm going to call the question. Those in opposition to the motion? Councillors Kobayashi, Councillor Day, and Councillor Logan oppose the motion. The motion passes. Moving on to bylaws. This is 10.1. Bylaw number 1852, Land Use Amendment 1764 Island Highway. This is for adoption. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Jansen, second by Councillor Kobayashi. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in opposition? Councillor Day opposes. Moving on to 10.2, this is bylaw number 1855, Main Sewer LAS 502 Allendale Road, first, second, and third reading. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Baxter, second by Councillor Logan. Discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Those in opposition? Nobody opposes. Moving on to 10.3, bylaw number 1856. This is West Sewer LAS Enlargement 502 Allendale. This is for first, second, and third reading. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Logan, second by Councillor Baxter. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Those in opposition? Nobody opposes. 10.4, bylaw number 1857, Main Sewer LAS Enlargement for 651 Carindale Road. This is first, second, and third reading. Moved by Councillor Kobayashi, seconded by Councillor Baxter. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Those in opposition? And nobody opposes. Moving on to 10.6, bylaw number 1859. This is Main Sewer LAS Enlargement for 3236 Machosen Road. This is first, second, and third reading.
Point of order.
Excuse me. Yes, Councillor Day.
You missed one, 10.5.
Did I? Thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I did or not. So thank you for catching that, Councillor Day. I will come back to that right now then. So excuse me, I don't forget about 10.6, 10.5, bylaw number 1858, West Sewer LAS. This is 651 Carindale Road. This is first, second, and third reading as well. Moved by Councillors Logan, seconded by Baxter. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Those in opposition? Nobody opposes. Thank you, Councillor Day. Moving on to 10.6, bylaw number 1859, Main Sewer LAS Enlargement 3236 Machosen Road. This is for first, second, and third reading. Moved by Councillor Jansen, second by Councillor Baxter. Discussion? No discussion. I'll call the question. Those in opposition, please raise your hands. Nobody opposes. 10.7, bylaw number 1860, South Sewer LAS Enlargement for 3236 Machosen Road. This is for first, second, and third reading. Moved by Councillors Kobayashi, seconded by Councillor Baxter. Discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. Those in opposition? Nobody opposes. Looking for a motion to adjourn. No, holy cow, nobody was going for that tonight. Gordy's so upset that he doesn't even want to leave the meeting. Councillor Jansen has got it tonight. So I will call the question. Those in opposition? Nobody opposes. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night all.